So, for example, the stop on a door, some contractors will call a dwang. A dwang, and others will call it a noggin, which neither of which is the correct terminology, but in different pockets of the country, you come across that terminology. Dwangs and noggins would be the first thing. So I've got somebody shouting me across the street, like, "Hey, pal, I needed something for a dwang, hang on my dwang." And I'm like, "What? What do you mean?"
English, please.
So, there's lots of funny little quirks like that. Yeah.
Right, hello, and welcome back to another episode of the podcast Chatzzz. I'm feeling very formal opposite each other. Normally I sit side by side.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Is it like an interview?
Brian, welcome to the podcast.
Who's interviewing who?
I don't know, whichever way you want. You can do me, I can do you. Bit of both.
So Adam, how long have you...
So just a couple of years. I did a post on Facebook a few months ago, and your wife Susanna messaged me and sold your soul and made you come on this podcast. So here we are. Thank you very much for coming on, taking time out your day.
Thank you for coming in and joining us, Adam.
Yeah, I know you're a busy man. One thing I haven't prepped you for actually is how would you introduce yourself if you're introducing yourself to someone for the first time, like in a taxi or meeting someone?
I just simply say I'm Brian from Carlisle. Usually if I'm in a taxi, that means I'm in London. So it's always quite interesting to say that I'm from Carlisle, and the response is, "Where's that?" And then when you explain where that is, they're quite surprised at how far away it is. So yeah, I would typically say I'm Brian from Cumbria, Carlisle.
Yeah. And then when people ask you where Carlisle is, what do you normally say to them?
I say, if you draw a line between England and Scotland and put one foot in Scotland and the other in England, then you're pretty much near Carlisle.
Yeah, that's a good one, yeah. It depends who it is who I'm saying. I'll say the Lake District. If you haven't heard the Lake District, I'll say maybe near Scotland, but then sometimes I'll say, the border of Scotland, 10 miles south. And then you're
it's not dissimilar. It's nice to say the Lake District though, as well, isn't it? Say, oh, you live in the Lake District. Fascinating. Yeah.
But lots of people haven't even heard of the Lake District either. And I'm like, how? But I don't know.
It seems to be the further south you go, the less familiar they are with the north of the country, in my experience.
So a lot of people haven't even gone to Manchester or that kind of thing. So, yeah. And also, one thing I prepped you for 2 minutes before we started is the 3 facts about yourself.
3 facts about myself, yes. So, first fact is, I'm currently 6'4", but used to be 6'6". Now, I don't know how that's happened, but I'm shrinking.
Oh, no way. Yeah. Over what time span has that been?
Probably from mid-20s when I was at my tallest, because obviously still growing at that point. But in recent times measuring, I'm down to 6'3". So I don't know if that's a spinal issue or if I'm genuinely just shrinking. But yeah, I am shrinking.
Still pretty tall though.
Yes. Yeah.
A lot taller than me. Yeah.
I like being tall.
Yeah, that's a good thing. Because I've never really felt that small. I've always felt like average. But then when I was in Australia over Christmas,
you've travelled, haven't you?
Yeah. Australians are just massive. And I was like, oh my God, I literally feel tiny.
Yeah.
Because I'm like 5'10", 5'11", which I think's
I get quite a lot of going to meetings and you meet people for the first time and say, oh, you're tall. But I think from my perspective at this height, I don't have a perception of who's tall and short because
you're tall there.
It's just an interesting
always looking
thing.
down.
Yeah. Interesting.
Second fact?
I am a fanatical fisherman.
Yeah, this is one that you were telling me about before, briefly. You mentioned it. How did you get into that?
My dad took me fishing when I was 7-year-old, and we caught a fish for the first time. I can honestly say I've just been chasing that feeling of catching a fish since I was 7-year-old. So I go to France twice a year if I can fishing. I've got a boat in southwest Scotland on Loch Ken, so I'll get up there on weekends when work and time permits. But yeah, it's my sense of freedom is just being out fishing and being outdoors to get away. For me, it's the absolute reset in terms of putting things straight, getting the mind straight, and then coming back to work on a Monday morning. So yeah, fishing is my release.
Yeah. Thing is, absolutely. It's always important, isn't it, to have something like that, to be able to switch off and not think of anything else apart from that?
I've found on my travels, certainly in the business world, that most people you meet that have got a kind of entrepreneurial mindset seem to have a at least one fanatical other hobby that they run in parallel with their businesses as well. I don't know if there's any connection there, but it is quite interesting to find people who are in business. They always seem to have that other passion, that hobby, and that passion is the kind of reset for them in terms of balancing the work-life balance. So it's interesting.
Yeah, because I feel like if you just work all the time, you'll just burn yourself out, won't you?
Yeah, you do. Yeah, and I've been there more times than I can. Yeah.
I think mine probably at the moment would be running.
Really?
Yeah, I got into running the start of last year.
Yeah.
And then, ran obviously when I was younger and played football, but I'd never really just ran because I always thought it was boring. And then last year, some of my mates signed up for a half marathon, and then last year I did 4 half marathons, and then just became.
So have you got plans then to do a full marathon?
Yeah, in Ibiza next month.
Really? So you're doing the full marathon in next month. So you've got the temperature to deal with as well, haven't you? Yeah.
So that was my first one last year, the half. Yeah. But we did it in the evening, so it was a bit cooler. Yeah. And it was downhill as well, most of it. So which is quite ideal.
That's cheating, isn't it? That's a quarter marathon.
Literally.
Yeah.
So I'm doing that one, and then I'll probably do another one. But that's like my thing where, and especially this year, one of my friends in Marbella, he never listens to music when he runs because he's with his own thoughts. And I've never done that really until the half marathon in Malaga last year in December when I fucked up because I got an Apple Watch.
So allowed to swear on this podcast?
Yeah, you can do whatever you want. As long as you don't say the C word constantly, that's fine. And I bought like an Apple Watch so I could like check my time when I'm running or whatever. And then I was showing it to my friend saying, oh yeah, I got this Apple Watch, so I'm going to link it to my headphones. It didn't link to my headphones, and I didn't have time to go back and get my phone. So I ran without music. And then, now when I run, I'm just with my own thoughts, and it's like actually really therapeutic. I think about so many things I would never actually think about.
It's like meditation, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just that ability to switch off the noise. It's not necessarily focus on anything, but just let your mind drift. I think it's similar to me with fishing. Once you're out, and you're doing something that's a kind of habit and a routine, your brain just gets the break from kind of thinking of all the other things that's going on in the world. So it's like it is meditation, I think, isn't it? Just having that hobby and that focus that allows you to switch off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, when I'm running, I'm just like, fuck, why am I doing this at the same time?
This is starting to get sore. When does it end? When does it stop?
And then the third fact.
Third fact, it would be remiss of me not to mention that I have both of them I'm extremely proud of. Katie, my daughter, who's 24, she lives in Dumfries, works in accountancy. And then my son, Max, who lives with us here in Carlisle, myself and my wife, Susanna. And he is obsessed with music, plays guitar, which I have to say I've started playing guitar with him now. So that's like another little hobby I've developed. And he's hoping to get into college now. He's just applied to go and do music at Carlisle College. So
cool.
He's actually very nervous at the minute, hoping he's going to get in, but I'm sure he's going to nail it. So that would be the third fact. 2 kids I'm very proud of. And my wife as well, Susanna.
Big shout out.
Who works in the business, and this business wouldn't run without her, to be honest. Yeah. Neither would I.
Important.
Yeah, exactly.
So
exactly.
Then having kids, and what's it like having kids, like you're saying, doing music and then hoping he gets into college and that kind of thing? Because I feel like, I don't know what being a parent's like, but that's what I would want to do as a parent if they've got like a passion and a hobby or an obsession, and just guide them in that way, because it's better to do something they enjoy rather than something they don't for the sake of it.
It's absolutely that's been our mantra, if you like, with both children. It's just, there's a lot of pressure put on kids these days in school, particularly with Max now. We find at school it's his exam time. He's got extracurricular activities. He loves his music. He does drama on a weekend as well. But they're under so much pressure to perform, and they get extremely stressed. And I think a lot of that comes through the schools because they've got the same pressures put on them to have a performing school. But we just say to them, you've got to, what will be. You cannot control. Yes, you can put all the work in. Yes, you can put all the effort in, but you can't control what the outcome's going to be in terms of your exams. But like everybody that we know in the world, whether they've done well at school or not, anybody who's followed their passion generally seems to just do well in life. So that's always been the focus for us, is just to tell them, follow what you love doing, and it will come good. You can't do wrong if you're doing something that you enjoy, as long as it's not illegal, of course. But people do well out of that as well, of course, don't they? So hence Max does his music and so on and so forth. So it's just ushering them in the right direction. And if they make mistakes, just let them know it's not the end of the world. Everybody makes mistakes. You do, I do, you do it all day long.
Yeah.
The trick is to learn from those mistakes, isn't it? And improve and get better as you go along. And as long as you're doing it for your own belief and your own purpose and your own wants and needs, then technically you can't go wrong, can you? So yeah, it's just been a guide, being a parent.
Yeah, no, I rate that a lot. That's cool. And then what were you like as a kid then growing up? Like a little kid, any first memories?
I was a menace.
Straight in there.
In a good way. I mean, I guess, I grew up in Carlisle. I've lived in lots of different parts of the UK, never lived abroad. But yeah, as a kid, I was just, I guess it's why I like fishing so much. I was just outside. I think when you speak to people of my generation, that seemed to be the theme, didn't it? Everybody spent all of the time outside. You came home for your tea or your dinner on an evening, and you were back out as soon as you could. So growing up, I was just, my memories are just being out on the bike outside, exploring and generally not doing what I was told.
Causing carnage.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Almost like having a gang.
Yeah.
A gang that we were hanging out with all the time. So yeah.
Yeah, because when I was growing up, I feel like it was just things were being introduced, like the phones just being introduced and like PlayStation, that kind of thing. We still...
How old are you then? What's old?
29.
29,
yeah.
I'm 47, so there's a slight difference in growing up, yeah.
Definitely. Because we still went to like the forest or whatever in Heads Nook and built like dens and all that kind of stuff. But then we did still go on the PlayStation and go out and play football, and then we started having phones, so it's like, whereas these days I feel like it's just as soon as they open their eyes, it's like put an iPad in front of their face.
I've definitely noticed that certainly from my time growing up. It was, PlayStations and Nintendos were just coming on the scene as I was growing up, and they were kind of new and exciting, but most of the time was just spent inside. As soon as, particularly school holidays, as soon as you woke up, you were more or less kicked outside by your parents, like, go outside, come back for your dinner at 1 o'clock or whatever. But now it just, between school and home, games consoles, handheld games consoles, phone, tablets, it does feel that it's, the kids today are just in front of a screen permanently. So there's a definite change in that. I've noticed that,
yeah. Apparently, I don't know how true this is, I don't know where I found this information as well, but apparently, like in generations to come, humans' thumbs are going to be like bigger.
I've seen
something like that because of like holding the phone.
Have you seen this thing where kids' heads are starting to morph from wearing gaming headphones?
No, I haven't seen that.
It's a similar thing because they constantly have the things on, so the heads are starting to morph. But as well, I've seen that thing that the digits of your hand will change to evolve into being able to output faster, basically through text. Yeah.
Evolution, isn't it? But I haven't seen the head. I'm going to actually research that.
Yeah, look at that.
Because they do all wear the massive headsets, don't they?
Yeah. I don't know if it's a real thing. I mean, there's so much AI now. You look at things on social media, you think, is that real? Or am I just getting taken?
You have to second guess yourself.
But I've definitely seen that recurring thing where people freaking out, realizing they've been wearing headphones. Yeah, so I don't know if that's an evolution thing or just the fact that the pressure of the headphones on the head are changing kids' skulls.
Probably a bit of both.
Yeah, quite possibly. Yeah, so we are literally going to look like the image of an alien in 50 years from now, aren't we? Yeah, big long tentacles and long elongated heads. Yeah.
Then what did you enjoy then doing growing up? Was there any aspirations when you were a little boy, or did you enjoy the academics or extracurricular, or just?
As a kid, I moved from school in Carlisle to my parents moved to Gretna. I was around 7-year-old, and I can remember being absolutely terrified of a new school system, a new education system. My memory of that was it was much more difficult moving into the Scottish education system from the English system. So that was a real challenge for me to kind of, technically I was a year behind from memory, being thrust into that, even at 7-year-old, been thrust from English school into Scottish school. So I remember that vividly. But in terms of, I just remember freedom was always my kind of, I've always wanted to do, what I want to do, when I want to do it. So again, just that being outside and getting away and, just being out and doing it and kind of having your own freedom to do things, being my memory growing up. Absolutely, yes.
And then, because Scottish schools, is it like, do they go January to December, the year group, or is it? I think it was just September to September. Am I making that up?
I think it's just the same. It's the same in terms of the academic calendar, so to speak. But I just vividly remember it being. Yeah, I can't remember much of 8, 9, 10-year-old at school, but I can remember those first couple of weeks just being sat in a classroom, not knowing anybody, having that to deal with, and thinking this is terrifying. I don't I can remember thinking to my parents, "What have you done to me? Why have you done this?" Mm-hmm. But then not just that, but remembering just having coursework put in front of me, books, maths, English, and thinking, I just do not understand what any of this is. And I don't know if I learned at the time that it was because the Scottish education system was potentially ahead in terms of age groups, or if I've learned that afterwards. But I just have that vivid memory of it being so much more difficult to try and learn and get ahead in a Scottish school.
That's interesting, yeah.
Yeah, it is.
And then wanting freedom, then where do you think that comes from? Like say from a young age, you wanted just freedom.
I don't know, to be honest. It's just, I still have it today. I guess it's where the fishing things comes from. It's just that ability to go out and not be hinged by any of the pressures of life. It's like, I'm outside, I can do what I want, I can go where I want, I can do what I want. Just have that kind of, just that sense of freedom is the only way I describe it. Don't know where it comes from.
It's probably just within, isn't it, really? Just
I think it is. Yeah.
I suppose that's probably...
It's like exploring. It's just like, you just want to go and see things. I mean, you sound well-travelled, so I guess it's the same thing. It's just that ability to go and see and do different things on your own, by your own design, rather than in a, you've been told you've got to do this, or you've got to have the... I think maybe it comes from a kind of regimented, not necessarily an upbringing, but you go through school, don't you? And it's like, you'll get the bus at this time, you'll turn up at this class on that time, the bell goes at that time, and it's almost like a rebellious thing. It's like, I don't want to be told what to do at what time or when to go anything. I want to do it on my own terms and then get out and do wake up at your own time, do what you want to, eat at your own time. So it maybe comes from that. I don't know.
I suppose that's why you weren't so good at school and mischievous, isn't it? Because you kind of wanted to rebel against the system.
Being told what to do. Yeah, the bell is ringing at 10 o'clock. You now must go outside and play, which is kind of the opposite to what I'm saying, but it's different than being told you must do it at this time rather than choosing it when you want. Yeah.
So for me, I didn't really enjoy it. Well, I did enjoy school, but it was like I say, I was never like a bad kid, but I would like distract people and stuff, that kind of thing, because I wasn't really into it.
Yeah, I think I was. Yeah, I don't necessarily remember not enjoying school, but I don't necessarily look back on it with like fond memories, thinking, "Oh, I wish I was back in school." It was just for me, it just felt like a process that this is something you've got to be done. Yeah, and I must admit, at school, I never had any clue what I wanted to do.
Really?
Yeah. How about yourself? I don't know.
Footballer.
Really? Yeah, it was football. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to be a footballer so bad. Yeah. Played for Carlisle for a number of years.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But just it wasn't good enough. So yeah. So going through school, then when it came to about like GCSEs or whatever.
Yeah.
What were the options for you? Was there any like career path or direction you wanted to go in, or was it just literally?
No, I mean I can remember GCSE times. And well, I think I did the last O grade that was available in the education, technical drawing. I don't remember there being that many options, to be honest. I think at the school I was at Annan Academy at the time, and I think because I was doing technical drawing, when it came up to the options of work experience, I got the chance to go and work at Glaxo for a week to do technical drawing, and I really enjoyed that. But I've got to be honest, at that time, and I think it's maybe the same for kids today, that a 15, 16-year-old, I don't think you've got the foresight to think, I want a career in this. It's almost like it's handed to you, and it's almost you fall into that position. But I can remember, even though I enjoyed technical drawing and I went to Glaxo to do work experience, I can remember having no clue what I want to do. And I never felt stressed by it. It's just I don't know what I want to do. And I vividly remember thinking, I just don't know what I want to do. I have no idea. Yeah,
it's tough for kids.
It is, yeah.
Because at 15, 16, I thought, I've got it all figured out, but you don't have a clue about anything.
No, you've no idea. Yeah, I think it's difficult for kids these days because you go through education, you've then got further education options, and I think it's really difficult to make a decision at 15, 16-year-old what you're going to commit to for the rest of your life when you don't know what you're going to do tomorrow.
No, literally. So. And jobs, especially these days, change and evolve so quickly. So like at 16, if you say went to sixth form in university, by the time you finish, if you're 21, 22, there could be new jobs that have just appeared out of nowhere that are just...
And there is that happening now, isn't it? I think career paths for kids these days, you literally can be anything you want to be. I think if you stick within the education system, I could be wrong in saying this, but it's just my opinion. I think it's a very regimented process of here are your options through the education system. But then you've got there's so many online courses available outside the kind of academic curriculum that you could literally choose to be anything, learn how to do that, and set up a business doing that as well. So it's just, I do feel through the education system, it's like you've got this choice. It's almost like A, B, or C. That's your choice, is what you're going to be.
Yeah.
But it's not given into the education system. Well, there's this whole other world that you could be a business in almost anything you want, a training provider, a guitar tutor, things like Udemy, these online training providers. You can do a course and you can become an expert in anything, and it's, you literally choose your own career path at any point in life. And I don't think that's given to kids these days. That this world exists, if you know what I mean.
No, it's not part of the system, is it? Really?
Well, I suppose it's entrepreneurship, isn't it? It's not shown through the education system that, hey, you can literally do anything you want if you pick up some basic skills, learn how to communicate with people, and have a desire to just succeed. You can do anything you want.
Yeah, because I remember when I was at uni, we had like a business lecture or business seminar course or something.
Yeah.
And she was like teaching...
Is it like an MBE type thing, is it? Or MBA, I shouldn't say.
No, just general module in my course. And she was saying, oh, you need to do this for your business plan or this for whatever. And then I remember asking her, saying like, have you ever run a business? And she was like, no, but I've got a business plan. And I was just thinking, what
have you executed your plan? No.
It's just like, what is going on here? Just like crazy. Obviously, that's not in every uni. I went to Cardiff, but...
Did you do the full degree?
Yeah.
Well, here's an interesting thing then. So from what you learned from that degree course, do you apply on a daily basis, on a regular basis, all the things that you've learned in that course?
No, nothing.
Or is it? Yeah.
Nothing. I did hospitality management at uni. Okay. So like...
And you're clearly not running a hotel.
Yeah. So I wanted to do events.
Yeah.
Because I love like festivals and stuff.
Yeah.
What,
as in the organisation of them, or just being at them? Yeah.
Just being at them at the time when I was like 17, 18. It's like, oh, this is so cool.
I am going to start Glastonbury number 2.
So then my mum and dad said, oh, don't just do that by itself, because they probably thought, oh my God, events management is a shit course.
Yeah.
So I did hospitality and events, but then going to uni and all the health and safety and the legal stuff for events, I was like, this is so boring. So then dropped that, carried on doing the hospitality, and then was going to go work in hotels. I had like placement at the North Lakes in Penrith and stuff. But I was working in events at uni as well. Like nightclub events. And then I remember finishing my degree and I was like, oh my God, I don't want to go. I was going to Aberdeen for a Marriott hotel job. And I was like, I don't want to do this.
It's a trek and a half.
Yeah. I was like, I'd be miserable. And then just went back to Cardiff and did events and set my own events business and then spiraled from there. So like, that's what I mean. It's, you can do whatever you want to do as long as you put in the work.
Yeah.
And just don't let anybody tell you can't do it, because you can do whatever you want to do, literally.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think we might be painting a dim view of the education system here, but I totally agree with you. It is. I feel like you come out of school and it's after that you then kind of decide what you want to do once you've had some experience of the big wide world and different jobs. And as I've always said to my kids, is get a job, figure out how it works, figure out where it doesn't work. And then if you really like doing that, then you start a business doing that, but you improve it because you've learned where that business doesn't work. Yeah. Then if you have another job and improve those skills, then you build up a whole collection of what works well, what doesn't work well. And you've kind of got the model there for a business of your own. So
that's good as you put it. Yeah.
I think you learn what you want to do after you've done it. Don't get me wrong. I know kids, and I see them at my kids' schools where they just seem super focused on, I am going to do this. But fair play to them. But in my experience, that's not the norm, I don't think.
No. Because I've got one friend who I met in sixth form, and he was always so focused on going to like Oxford Uni. And he just wanted to go to Oxford Uni. And then he went to Oxford Uni and did he's super, super clever and super smart.
Yeah.
And then he now works for Apple in London. And then he's going to get transferred to like America and stuff. And I'm like, that's what he's always wanted to do. And he's always like journalism and that kind of thing. So he does internal communications for like, I don't know what it is, like American news to the UK, how it's going to impact the stock price, whatever it is. I'm not 100% sure. But that's like, he was super laser focused and he's done that, you know what I mean? He's really successful.
That's where it is,
Where like, if you're doing that, fair play. But the majority of people, it's just like, same with me, just went to uni just for the experience, really.
Yeah.
I built a good network and learned a few skills, and then you just kind of go from there. But if you want to be probably like an accountant, a solicitor, and that kind of thing is obviously relevant, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the thing. If you want one of those vocations, as I call them, then you haven't really got a choice, have you? You've got to go down that road.
Whereas if you want to be a hotel manager, like I wanted to be, you don't have to go to uni, do you? You just go and work there and work your way up. It's easy. So what was your first job then? Because I know you said you've been in the same kind of
My first job, well, I'll tell you, my first job when I was at school was working at the Peat Moss, but this was like a summer holiday job.
Oh, yeah.
And working at the Peat Moss, which is between Gretna and Eastriggs, kind of on the motorway there. I don't know if you know where that is. And that literally was weekends and all week in the summer holidays, on your knees in a peat bog, pulling out sections of peat and building them into blocks so that they could air dry. And I only discovered recently what those air dried blocks were for. That's what you put on the fire to burn them, but I had no idea that's what I was doing at the time. So that was my very first job. And you literally got paid price, what you would now call price work. So the more bricks you pulled out the mud and turned it, the more you got paid. And I don't know if that was a kind of backhanded education, but I learned at that point in time that the harder you work, the more you earn. Literally. And that's the kind of ethics that I've always done. The more you put in, the more you get back out of it. Not necessarily financially, but there is a definite recurring pattern that the more you put in, the more you get out. 100%. So yeah, that would be my
character building.
Absolutely. Yeah. But my memory of it looking back now, I loved it. It was great. It's like, yes, this is going back to this freedom thing. There's a recurring theme here. It's like, this is a vehicle to freedom that I can go and do something, put the effort in, get the reward, which then generates more freedom, i.e. cash and choice to go and do things with your friends at weekends or what have you. So yeah, that was the very first job. Yeah.
And what was the first ever proper job?
First proper job would be working for an architectural ironmongery company.
Okay. Yeah.
So to explain what architectural ironmongery is in very basic terms, it's door handles, hinges and locks, essentially. So working behind a trade counter, dealing with the trade, so contractors, joiners, general builders, coming in and selling them stuff, those products. And I've kind of been in that industry ever since.
Yeah, you were saying before we started. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, nothing's changed.
Yeah, how did that come about then in the first place? What made you apply, or was it like a friend or a family member that recommended it, or anything like draw you to that specific role? Door handles?
No, I can't say I ever woke up one morning. I love doors and door handles.
I'm so surprised.
I do today though. When you get down to the finite technical detail, which is a thing of mine. No, I mean, from memory, I think it was just a job that was available, and I applied for it and kind of got the job. Well, not kind of got the job. Obviously got the job, and it just went from there. That was the. And I mean, I can't say I loved selling door handles and locks and hinges to joiners, but they always say in the industry that I'm from, the architectural ironmongery industry, or the specification of, is once you fall into this industry and become qualified in it or accredited in it, you kind of never leave it. And it's true. I know people in this industry that through the nearly 30 years now I've been in it, that have been in it the same length of time I have, and there's very few people leave it.
Why do you think that is then?
Laziness?
Yeah.
No. I don't know. I think it's just something that you don't stop learning in. It is I know in layman's terms you think, well, how technical can a door handle, lock, or a hinge or a door system be? But we've got European standards, we've got technical assessments, we've got fire resistance testing. It can be a deeply technical subject, and once you go down that rabbit hole, I think certainly for the people in this industry that I know that have been in it for the same length of time I have and longer, once you amass that level of technical knowledge, it's very difficult to apply it anywhere else. It's not relevant in any other industry. So I think you get to a point where you're so far in that to go and do something else, even after 5 years, 10 years technical knowledge, you're kind of going into another industry starting from scratch. So that's maybe why. I don't know, but yeah.
Not many transferable knowledge. That's interesting. Yeah. So, but you must have built up a good network then over the years, from your first job to now going through your journey and career path.
Yeah. There's been interesting enough, I had a meeting with a chap that I worked with 27 years ago. He was in here 2 days ago, sat at this very, very table. I haven't spoken to him in 10 years, but he reached out, connected. So yeah, I've got a lot of contacts from within the industry in various different pockets of the industry that some I stay in touch with all the time, some you've not spoken to for years, but because you've got that, you're from the same industry and you know the same background and you know a lot of the so-called industry stalwarts, then it's easy to sort of pick back up on those connections, even if you've not spoke to somebody for 10 years or so.
How did you find that first job then? What was that like, going into first full time, like say selling door handles?
Well, from memory, it was frantic. Yeah. So my first memory of that job is being stood at the trade counter.
6'6".
6'6". I was 6'6" then. Yeah. Yes, a lanky streak of called it. And my first memory of that is Monday morning, stood on the trade counter, and as you can imagine, in well, not necessarily just because it was Dumfries in South West Scotland, but any other trade counter on a Monday morning, every trade turning up at that counter ready to buy their kit for the week ahead. So I'm stood at the counter. 5 or 6 people deep stood at the counter. Obviously, I've got other colleagues next to me, but it's my day one, and I've got people coming up to me handing me bits of paper or shouting at me, "Can you grab us one of these?" And I remember being stood there thinking, I have no idea what you're asking for. I don't know what a 2-inch ABC is or a pair of XYZ trousers for the joiners. But I can just remember people shouting instructions at me and being stood there thinking, shit, help me. So it was a baptism of fire, but that would be my first memory of that. Yeah. And then from there, it was just a very steep learning curve and having to rapidly learn. If somebody's asking for a whatever in their terminology, they actually mean it's a one of these and they need X, Y, and Z. So you kind of rapidly learned the sort of construction trade from inside it, if you like, in terms of just what people need to deliver a project and have to buy the kit. So yeah, it was a rapid learning curve in terms of I need kit, I need it now, and you've got to supply it to me, and my project isn't happening on time. So that was the memory of that. Yeah.
What would be some memorable like trade lingo then you learned? I'm intrigued.
Memorable trade lingo.
There might not be any, but
I'll tell you what's interesting on the trade lingo is, and we touched on it before. We're on the border of England and Scotland. Is the terminology, and I learned it in those first few weeks behind the trade counter, particularly in the world of joinery and carpentry. There's a different language used to describe different parts of door systems in Scotland compared to England, and that literally can be the difference between Carlisle and Gretna. They'll use different terminology. So, for example, the stop on a door, some contractors will call a dwang, and others will call it a noggin. Which neither of which is the correct terminology, but in different pockets of the country, you come across that terminology. So dwangs and noggins would be the first thing. So I've got somebody shouting me across a trade crowd, like, "Hey, pal, I needed something for a dwang. Hang on my dwang." And I'm like, "What? What do you mean?"
English, please.
So there's lots of funny little quirks like that. Yeah.
How did things kind of progress over the years then with that? Because obviously you weren't just happy selling door handles and stuff for you.
Well, interestingly, where that took me is, obviously as a trade company, selling lots of trade products, but for whatever reason, what interested me was all the specific architectural ironmongery products and learning that there was test standards for them and they all performed differently depending on different test criteria. And then from that, for the company I was working for, I realized there was like specialists in that field called architectural ironmongers or registered architectural ironmongers. And their role was to work with architects and work from floor plans and write detailed performance specifications, essentially to enable all of the doors in that building to function according to different building regulations, guidance, and different technical standards. And that was kind of a real eye opener to me. I guess a bit like when I was at school, I couldn't see any opportunity to do anything. When I see it now, I was like, "Oh, there's actually, this isn't just a job. There's something else this could move into." And I got completely fascinated in all the technical standards and you're reading all the building regulations, guidance, and everything around the built environment in terms of what needs to happen and what should happen and how it happens and how certain products and specifications can enable buildings to function better or worse, or specific products that might be tailored toward mental health facilities versus general office environments versus hospitals, and really getting into that technical detail. It was from there I discovered there's an organisation called the Guild of Architectural Ironmongers. I'm sounding really sad here, but this is it. This is my world. Yeah. And they had a qualification, which is a globally recognised qualification, 4-year course to learn all the technical standards of how you would write that specification for all those components. So whether you were scheduling the technical specifications for an entire hospital or just a single house, that qualification taught you how to do that. So I decided at that point, that's what I'm going to do. And that's kind of where that took us from literally being stood behind that trade counter and having a joiner coming in saying, I need a hinge, to me thinking, well, how do I know what hinge you want? To then realizing, well, actually, there's a technical specification and a qualification that dictates this is the hinge you need to have for this application. Learning that whole world and then becoming a so-called registered architectural ironmonger myself and going to visit those architects and writing those specifications and so on and so forth. So that's kind of where it took me from there.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Then what was it like then going out into the field, shall we say, and speaking to the architects and actually being out and about? That's a whole new world, I'd imagine. That would be really interesting.
It absolutely was, yeah. So from that, I kind of became what's called a technical specification consultant. And I loved the fact that was a title. And
very official.
I can remember getting a business card and a mobile phone at the time thinking, hey, I've made it here.
I'm the man.
I've got a company card, I've got a mobile phone, I've got a business card. So that was the kind of the feeling around that. But yeah, going out into that world, from being stood behind a trade counter with joiners shouting at you saying, I need X, Y, and Z, to suddenly being the guy who was going up to visit the architect, who was dictating what the specification would be with the architect, which then drove the reasoning that man is standing at that trade counter was a real eye-opener in terms of, so this is how our built environment works, and this is how our buildings are designed, built, and a real understanding of how the design and the technical specification of any building is really decided on paper before a spade goes in the ground. And that was absolutely fascinating to me to think I can have an influence on the delivery design of this project in terms of how this building is going to function by putting the correct specifications forward for consideration in the overall design of the building. And that was for me was exciting. I mean, proper exciting, because as I say, I've gone from
here's a nothing.
Please nobody take offense. A hairy ass builder shouting at me, I need this and I need it now for this job, to suddenly being able to influence what that guy is asking for at that trade counter and understanding why he needs that. So yeah, it was a complete culture shift from being on the receiving end to actually driving how this building is going to work. So yeah, it was a real. I must admit, I felt out of my depth at first. I can remember going to my first architect's practice with my suit on and my tie on and my briefcase at the time as well, and kind of standing in front of this practice in Newcastle, I think it was, and then seeing all these architects and designers stood inside, and I've kind of come from a trade counter background to suddenly walk into this building and have this conversation. I remember feeling extremely nervous, but mega excited at the time, thinking, yes, this is it, I've arrived.
Yeah, that's cool. It's always good to be comfortable being uncomfortable, isn't it? Because that's how you grow.
But I must admit, I've kind of learned that more in the last 5 or 7 years since starting FD Fire Door, that it's actually behind the uncomfort that exists, the kind of the drive and the excitement. That's where it is. So I'm not saying I intentionally put myself in uncomfortable situations, but when you are sat there analysing what should I be doing or what is the best direction of travel, I think you're right, absolutely is. It often sits behind that, I don't want to do that, it's terrifying. That's what it is.
Yeah, it's doing the things that other people don't want to do, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because I know, well, I speak to a lot of business owners, and I feel like that's the norm for people, but it's not the norm for people. The majority is being employed. Nothing wrong with being employed, but those people are just, not everyone, but a lot of people are just happy being comfortable in their routine of going to work and doing the thing, getting the paycheck and that kind of thing. They don't want to do the uncomfortable bit of not having any money coming in every month and going out and put yourself out there. And
it is a definite recurring thing. I think it's when you look where the anxieties are, that's usually where it's almost your system telling you this is what you need to be doing. And when you apply it to business, it's so true in the sense that if you look at all elements of anybody's business, things that work well tend to be, or from my experience when you speak to them, they're the things they've done that create the most anxiety in the first place, because they know that there's a solution exists behind that anxiety that takes it away. So yeah.
You need to be...
That's why business owners are always stressed, I think, is because they're looking for the chaos and the anxiety to sit within it and embrace it. It's not comfortable, but fear is a guide, I think.
Yeah, it's like that unwavering self-belief, isn't it? Like, you're going to get there. But yeah. So then how did this come about then? And I know I asked you before we started, but had you always wanted to have your business? And then how did this come about?
I didn't know I wanted to have a business, and I never, like I said before, at school and in early parts of my career, there was never any grand plan of having a business. But a couple of things happened. I'd been in the industry for a number of years in various different sectors, and I'm sure, as most people are aware of, the Grenfell Tower fire disaster happened. And just because I was in this world of fire doors and specifications and components and how all these things are supposed to happen, then at that point in time, my phone just went into meltdown, almost like, shit, Brian, we need help. Are we doing this right? Are we doing these things right? So that was the first thing that kind of became the brain seed for this. And the second was, I was just bored of working for other people. So it comes back to this freedom thing again. It was just, I was constantly looking at organizations, companies, practices, architects, contractors that I was working with and thinking, I can see a better solution for you that exists outside the business that I am currently representing. And I could provide you with a much better service if I could just have free rein to tell you what you need to know rather than be having to sell what I'm paid to sell you, if that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah.
So those kind of, that feeling of being unsettled and thinking I could do something better here, and I just want the freedom to go and do something better, colliding with, the Grenfell Tower inquiry happening, this whole world of fire doors and compliance being thrust under the spotlight and lots of legislation being driven around that, just kind of colliding at the same time. And I just took the leap of I am going to do this because people were phoning me, asking me the question anyways. And what I was finding was that if I was to give them the solution I was paid to give them, it wasn't actually the best solution. And that didn't sit right with me. It was, I can tell it. And often I was saying, you better go and dealing with this company than me.
Yeah.
Or you need to buy this product from X, not from my company. And it just didn't feel, does that make sense?
Yeah,
it didn't feel right to me. I was like, a client's coming up to me saying, what do I do about this? And I said, well, what you should be doing is buy that from them, speak to him, go and get that from there and do this. And I was kind of becoming a coordinator of making things work.
Yeah.
Taking a salary from my employer, where in some instances the solution I was given to the client had nothing to do with the company who was paying my salary. So it just kind of happened that's where it was going to go, and that's how it started. Yeah.
What was the first day like when you quit and then started by yourself? What was that feeling like? Can you remember?
I can remember exactly what it was like. It was a 50%, and again, there's a recurring theme here. It was a 50% feeling of, yes, I've got complete freedom, and a 50% feeling of complete fear and anxiety. A very weird concoction of two opposing forces. But yeah, I can remember that's exactly what it felt like. So you go through days of complete exhilaration, or even mornings or hours of complete exhilaration.
Minutes.
And minutes just flicking from one emotional state to another. In fact, nothing's changed today, to be honest. But that's the feeling. Probably still is this feeling today, is that some days of just complete exhilaration, excitement that we can do anything we want to do, provided we just focus on it and put a plan around it, to other moments or days or hours or minutes of complete anxiety and fear of thinking, holy shit, there's nobody else to answer questions here, or there's nothing, there's no guide or no book or anything that says, here's what you're supposed to do in this situation, Brian. So yeah, that would be my summary of what that first day feels like and what it still feels like today.
Yeah. It's funny,
a combination of shitting yourself but super excitement.
Yeah, it is an interesting view, isn't it?
It is.
And then, so that first day, was the phone ringing non-stop, or what was it? Was it or you had some like business lined up, or how did it kind of start and kick off?
It was, I guess like most businesses, it was day one is, who do we want to deal with? How do we speak to those people? Where do we find them? What social media do we need? What website do we need? So it was a case of building all the systems and the processes, I think, from day one, and having absolute belief that, I'm saying we, there was only me at that point in time, but me with a view to being we, know what we're talking about. We know what we're doing. So we have solutions to problems. And if clients find us and realize what we can do, we'll build a good client base. So yeah, those first few weeks, days, months were about building the system and the process and hoping that people would find us. And don't be wrong, I had an existing network of people. So it was a case in the early days of just reaching out to people saying, look, I've taken a leap of faith. This is what I'm doing. This is how I want to do things. This is how I believe things should be working, and just trying to spread the word, if you like, in amongst my network, and hoping that people would start to pick up the phone and engage with us more. And I'm pleased to say that was the case, that did start to happen. So that was the early days. It was just a case of almost build the product, the system and the service, and the clients will follow, and let as many people know as possible that we're doing what we're doing because we believe it's the right thing to do.
Yeah. And then how, from the early days, how things kind of evolved from then? Obviously, we're 7 years in now, which is a long time.
7 years in. I guess how they've evolved is we now, at the start, it was just me telling people on a pure consultancy basis what we do. Now we have online systems that manage full clients' estates in terms of their fire door compliance. We have a team set up nationally that deliver the services that I used to deliver on my own, so dotted around the UK. We're a recognised training provider now as well, so we can teach our clients how have some of the competencies that we have, so they can take some of the things in-house themselves. So we've grown. Yeah, we've got, we're not the finished article yet, but I guess the difference between then and now is we have processes, we have systems, we have accreditation, and we have a very regimented process in terms of the way we do things, and how I guess the difference between now and then is in the early days it was trying to understand how are we going to solve the client's problems. Now we very much know, before we've even spoke to them, exactly what we are going to do in terms of how we're going to solve them, have a complete solution-based service that sits behind us in terms of every client we speak to, here's how we solve your problems. Because we've seen it so many times now, we know the recurring themes of their issues, and the business, or the way I've built the business now, is to have all those systems and processes in place ready to deal with those client problems, as almost taking services and turning them into products as solutions, to say, look, we recognise if you've got this problem, here's our service solution for it, and this is how it works. So it's kind of morphed like that, if you like, in terms of identifying the recurring issues with the clients and building solutions and turning them into products to solve those solutions for our clients. And that's what we do now.
Bit like a framework, is it? Thing. Yeah. I like that a lot because that's so scalable. Because, like you say, if you see the same thing over and over again, and you've got that framework or that product or that system, you can just put it into the different businesses. And that's super, super valuable to them. So
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, fundamentally as a business, we inspect people's fire doors, which sounds very simple on the face of it. But if you take, a typical client of ours will be an NHS estate with thousands of doors, tens of thousands in some instances. And what was always important to me was, or what I learned rapidly, is when you inspect a client's doors, what you actually become is a bearer of bad news. So if they've got lots of doors, they've got lots of things wrong with them, essentially we provide them a report that ultimately says, not only have you got lots of problems, but you now need to find thousands of pounds to solve these problems. And that's not a very scalable model, is it?
No, it's not.
It's like, give us some money to tell you that you need to spend some money.
Yeah.
So what we've invested time in is building services and solutions around that help them achieve compliance in a manageable, not necessarily affordable, but a risk-based solution format. So rather than say, here's everything's wrong and you need to replace everything now, in terms of the systems we've built and we use, we're building risk-based management for those clients to have them to see full visibility of the issues they've got and put some plans in place to address some of those issues, A, to keep them on the right side of the legal requirements, but B, in a manageable format. So we've kind of gone from being the bearer of bad news to being the bad news provider. It's not very terrible, to providing customized solutions for them that help them achieve compliance.
Yeah. No, I think, like you say, obviously it's developed over time, isn't it? And that sounds like works for business, because business owners and businesses super busy, aren't they? So if you just say you need to do all this now, they'll be like, that's overwhelming, I'm not going to do any of that, and then it'll be illegal and anything.
And that's I must admit, that's the awful thing. I mean, don't get me wrong, in terms of what we do, there's an absolute legal requirement now that our service must be engaged either through us or an equivalent. But it's always been been a business owner myself. What we do not like doing is saying, look, you've got problems. And it's going to cost you money and you're going to need to find the site and solve these problems. But almost then take that problem away from them and say, look, if you want a solution, we can help you achieve compliance, and this is how we do it. without putting any pressure on them that they've got to do one or two. So yeah, it's I guess from my side, the business always evolved. We're just constantly looking at how do we provide the solution. And the strapline for the business when we're doing presentations to our clients is we help you achieve compliance in a rapidly changing regulatory landscape, which is currently where we are post Grenfell, and it's not going to slow down at all. So we're just constantly looking at what is coming in terms of legislation and then helping the clients navigate that in the most manageable way forward.
Yeah. And then if I was to ask one of your clients, what's the best thing or the favourite thing that you do for them, what do you think they'd say?
Almost everybody that phones FD Fire Door or wants to speak to me, the first question they ask is, or the first statement that comes out of my mouth is, Brian, I need to pick your brains. So I am certain if you asked certainly our top clients, it's that resource of knowledge in terms of, and I always say the same thing, if I can't answer the question now off the top of my head, I guarantee I'll get you that answer within a sensible time frame just through my network from the industry. So I think that's what the response would be, is that we are a resource of knowledge with vast experience that knows how this world of fire doors and ironmongery compliance works.
Yeah, because you can't put a price on that. You can't put a price on experience, can you?
Yeah.
And that's the thing it's hard to even price that yourself, isn't it? Because it's just your knowledge, but then actually to them, that's worth so much money, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, one of my frustrations with our industry as it stands at the minute is it's so easy now to get the qualifications that we have, or some of the accreditations we have, and customers, clients, people who need the services that we provide can sometimes be confused. They can look out in the marketplace and say, oh, well, what's I can see 5 different companies here and they've all got the same qualification. But the difference is, and I think it's the same in any industry, is a piece of paper that says you've sat a training course or answered a multiple choice question is one thing. But to find people with deep knowledge and experience roost in their industry is a completely different thing. And I think same in any industry, when you can find experience who've been there and done that, that's a different kettle of fish. And I'd like to think that's where we sit in terms of the services we provide. And I think it's the same for other industries out there. When you can find those experienced people and experienced organizations, that's where the magic happens, if that's not too much of a...
No, that makes sense.
But experience is everything, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And then if somebody's listening to this and they're thinking, should we get in touch, or is this right for them? What would you kind of say to them, would you say?
I think the thing to be understood in the current climate is every business owner, every organisation, every building, whether they know it or not at this current time, has an absolute legal obligation under the new fire safety order that they need to have the services that we provide. Now, we would urge them to contact us. We're not here to tell them, we're not an authority. We're not here to tell them you must do this and you have to do this. And if you don't do it, you're going to jail. That's not the process. What we're here to do is to help those organisations, business owners and facilities managers, whoever they may be, that's got responsibility for fire safety in their organisations, to contact us. And in the first instance, we will help them understand what should be happening, how they can handle that, and what systems, processes, and capabilities and service providers are out there to deal with those processes, and just help them get compliance in the most cost-effective and manageable way. So if people want to contact us, that would be the first point of call, is we'll help them understand what needs to happen and how to solve some of the problems that they may have that they're not aware of.
I think understanding is key, isn't it? Because if you go to somebody and say, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, you need to spend this amount of money, they're like, whoa,
it's scary.
That's crazy, isn't it? But if you say, oh, this is wrong because of this, this, and this, and if you can do this, like you say, then
give them options in terms of here's how you get this right, or here's some options in terms of how you get this right. And sometimes it's not just a case of here's a product or a system. It's just helping clients understand that, okay, yes, maybe you've got some issues in your building in terms of fire safety, fire doors, but that doesn't mean you need to go out and spend hundreds of thousands of pounds today or tomorrow or the next day. It's building a risk management plan and understanding what that looks like in terms of their long-term liability and working with them to make compliant solutions. So sometimes it's just guiding the client in terms of what they need to understand, what their options are, rather than it just being a fixed product or service that has a cost associated with it.
No, that's good. That's good. Yeah. And right, let's go on to biggest mistake or biggest regret. So I gave you about 2 seconds before we started.
You did, and I forgot about that.
We're going to the end now. So did you say you've had no regrets though, but you said you've made a few mistakes that you want to share on the podcast, obviously?
Yeah, I mean, like everybody, I've made lots of mistakes in life, and I keep making lots of mistakes in business. I think the thing is with all of those, I mean, I don't think I can pinpoint one biggest mistake. Well, I could actually. I didn't get the timing belt in my van changed recently, and it come off. And it's gone through the engine, and it's now going to cost me 12 grand for a new engine. So that's a big mistake and a big regret. But I think the way to sort of summarize regrets and mistakes, it's you've got to make them. They're there to be had, but you've got to learn from them and adapt and move forward from them. So,
it's that experience, isn't it? And even I feel like if my mum and dad have told me something growing up and say, you shouldn't do this, you should do this instead, and I would have still done exactly the same thing that I'd have done, but then you think, oh fuck, maybe they were right, but then you'd learn from
you have to learn for yourself.
You have to learn for yourself.
That's that same sort of character, isn't it? It's that rebellious character. It's like, just don't listen to anybody else, but you'll do your own thing. But
it'd be dangerous if you didn't, though. If you listen to everyone's advice, because I think now, me giving advice 5 years ago, fucking dangerous, wouldn't you? But it's like, if you do that, fair play to you, you're different breed.
You have to make mistakes, don't you? If you don't, you're not doing anything. I mean, what you're doing, sitting in a room, staring into space. Well, you wouldn't even be eating, would you? If you looked at everything you're seeing for social media, you think, oh, I can't eat peanuts today. I can't drink water anymore because it's got fluoride in it. I can't do anything. So you just have to. You have to make the mistakes, don't you? That's what it's all about in my eyes. It's just keep trying and testing things, and it's the mistakes that tell you what's right and wrong. But What's my biggest mistake? I don't know.
Yeah, that's a fair answer. That's a fair answer. Right. Any closing thoughts? Anything you wanted to say to the viewers, the listeners? Anything to round up the podcast? Sell your soul as well if you want.
Yeah, I guess. I think if anybody's listened to this and is having concerns, do I have issues with my fire doors? Bear in mind, we're a fire door compliance management consultancy. Do not be afraid to try and find out. There's a legal obligation in the background there that says you've got to do this now. Don't let that be something that's a fear. Just reach out, get in touch. We will help you understand the process, let you know what your options are, and we will guide you through the process in helping you achieve compliance. So if you've any doubt, any concerns, please just reach out to us, and I promise you we will give you best practice advice based on experience, not because we're trying to sell you something, not because we're trying to make money from the process, but because we believe that we want to help all of our clients achieve compliance.
And where can they find you?
You can find us in Carlisle if you want a physical location, Unit 1, James Street Workshops, Carlisle. You can find us online, www.fdfiredoor.co.uk. And you can find us on our socials, Facebook, Instagram. We don't do Twitter anymore.
No, I don't really rate Twitter. I just have Twitter just to keep up to date with the football news. That's the shit I do.
Yeah. Well, I don't have access to my account anymore, so I keep looking at it thinking I must get back into this, and then it goes on.
You're not missing much. That's the thing.
Well, it's X now, isn't it? It's Musk. It's Musk. Yeah, who calls everything X?
Yeah, I think social media is one of them things where I'm bad for it in the morning. When I wake up, it's the first thing I do.
I'm trying to flip that on its head at the minute. That's one of my regrets. Is spending too many hours on social media in the morning between 5 and 6 a.m. I kind of have a window where I
doom scroll in
the morning between 5 and 6. So that's my biggest regret, is wasting an hour of every day of my life in the morning on social media. There you go.
It adds up, doesn't it? Yeah,
it does add up. Yeah, but it's designed to be addictive, isn't it? So
it's that dopamine hit.
We kind of almost haven't got a choice, have we?
No, I use the excuse it's my job, but it's not in the morning. I'm quite good in the evenings when I go to bed. I won't scroll. But it's in the morning. My girlfriend, she always scrolls before bed, but doesn't really do it in the morning. So we need to
Interesting.
Learn.
Well, funny enough, I listened to another podcast recently, and the name escapes me of the chap who does it. But he's talked about that same issue of doom scrolling, but how to make it more productive for yourself. And it does take some time to set up. And I must admit, I'm trying to do it. Is if you just configure all your interests to be things that you like, so it could be business, it could be podcasting, it could be whatever. If you configure it all to that, then whilst you may be addicted to the doom scrolling, if the information that's coming through on the feed is relevant to what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, rather than being served to you in terms of, we think you'll be interested in this, keep looking at it, configure it, then it's arguably a better use of time than just switching your brain off and looking at people with headphones on their head that's morphed.
It's easy said than done, though. It is addictive.
Oh, I'm telling you, it is.
Right, everybody, if you've been watching on YouTube, make sure to like the video, comment your favorite part, and subscribe. If you listen on Spotify, Apple, make sure to follow the podcast and leave a 5-star review. And we'll see you next time. Bye.